Welcome to Godsmacked, where AI collides with Ontology and your old self doesn't make it out alive. Not safe, not scripted, not sorry. This is for founders, thinkers, and creators who crave more than conversation. They want confrontation. We don't talk about change, we engineer it. No fluff, no filter, just tools, truth, and transformation. Welcome to your initiation.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the time stream. It is Friday, February 6th, 2026, and you should probably mark that date, because if you have been looking for a signal amidst all the noise, you have absolutely come to the right place. The world is currently betting $2.5 trillion on artificial intelligence. But there is a massive collision happening right now, a collision between that technology and the law.
It's a friction point that, we just haven't seen before at this scale. You're seeing record spending, these astronomical numbers, but at the same time, record regulatory fragmentation.
Exactly. So welcome to the weekly AI brief. We are, for all intents and purposes, reporting from the front lines of what people are starting to call the Great Bifurcation of 2026.
It's a fitting name, isn't it? The landscape is just splitting in multiple directions at once. You have the tech accelerating, and then the rules of the road are just fracturing underneath it.
We have a packed brief for you today. We're going to unpack that staggering Gartner spending forecast. And seriously, the number is eye-watering. We'll look at the regulatory war that's breaking out between President Trump's executive order and the state governments of California and Texas.
And we have to talk about the model wars. It has been a completely chaotic week. We've got new releases from OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, and a surprising contender rising out of China called Moonshot AI.
And you'll want to stick around because while everyone is fighting over benchmarks and chatbots, we think one player, Google, is quietly positioning itself to own the actual infrastructure of the future. We'll explain why later. But first, let's follow the money.
Always the best place to start.
So Gartner released their forecast back in January. The numbers for 2026 are officially in. Worldwide AI spending is projected to hit $2.52 trillion this year.
Trillion?
That is a 44% increase year over year.
Let's put that in perspective for everyone listening. That is roughly the GDP of France. That is the entire economic output of a G7 nation being poured into one sector in 1 year.
It's an astronomical amount of money. But here's the nuance I want to get into. You might hear $2.5 trillion and think, wow, everyone is buying chatbots. Or that every company is subscribing to ChatGPT Enterprise. But that's not really what's happening, is it?
No, and that's the critical distinction. If you look at the breakdown, a huge chunk of this, about $400 billion or so, is purely infrastructure. We are talking about the cement pouring phase, servers, data centers, cooling systems, the physical backbone that you need to run these models.
It's interesting you use the word cement because the report mentions this concept of the trough of disillusionment, which sounds like a depressing place to be. It sounds like the party's over. But in the tech cycle, it's actually kind of important.
Oh, it's essential. The trough of disillusionment it is. It basically means the hype is dying down and the real work is starting. Enterprises aren't looking for magic anymore. They're not funding those moonshot experiments that might work in 5 years. They're moving to boring, practical integration.
So they aren't buying from the cool new startup with a waiting list in a Discord server.
Exactly. They are buying from their incumbent software providers. If you are a Fortune 500 CIO, you aren't taking a risk on a 3-person startup. You're buying the AI that's integrated into the software you already use, your Microsoft, your Oracle, your Salesforce. It's a maturing market. It's moving from magic to utility.
It's like when electricity moved from being a magic trick to just being the thing that turns the lights on.
Precisely. We are wiring the house. The novelty is gone, but the utility is skyrocketing.
Which brings us to the environment these companies are operating in. Because if you're a business trying to deploy this utility, the legal ground is just shifting under your feet. We're seeing a genuine constitutional showdown.
This is that regulatory collision we mentioned at the top. On one side, you have the federal government. On December 11th, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order asserting federal preemption. Basically saying, we are taking charge here to protect national economic competitiveness.
And the argument being that a patchwork of 50 different state laws creates a nightmare for American innovation.
Correct. The administration wants to override what they're calling onerous state regulations. They see these local laws as handbrakes on the economy. But the states, they are not waiting for permission. As of January 1st, 2026, two major state laws went into effect that are, well, they're radically different from each other.
Okay, let's break those down because this is where the bifurcation gets real. First up, California.
California enacted the TFAIA, that's the Transparency in Frontier Artificial Intelligence Act. This is the one focused on catastrophic risks.
This is the Terminator law.
In a sense, yeah, it focuses on models that could cause mass casualties or over $500 million in damage. It requires kill switches and rigorous safety testing for these frontier models. It's very safety first, very restrictive.
A kill switch. That sounds simple, but I mean,
Right.
technically, how do you put a kill switch on a distributed model that's already been downloaded?
That is the billion-dollar question. It is incredibly difficult to enforce, but the liability is there. If you can't shut it off, you can't launch it in California.
And then you have Texas.
Texas went a completely different direction with the TRAIGA, the Responsible AI Governance Act. Their focus isn't on the Terminator, it's on Big Brother. They're focused on healthcare disclosures, prohibiting social scoring, which is a huge concern in privacy circles, and banning AI manipulation of human behavior.
So if I'm a business operating nationally, say I'm a bank or a healthcare provider, I have California telling me I need a kill switch for catastrophic risk, Texas telling me I can't use AI for social scoring, and the federal government is threatening to sue the states for regulating me in the first place.
It is absolute whiplash. And this is why we call it the Great Bifurcation. The legal landscape is fracturing right at the moment the technology is trying to scale. If you are a compliance officer in 2026, you're probably not sleeping very well. You are looking at a map of the United States and seeing a minefield.
Well, the compliance officers are stressed, but the engineers are busy because the model wars have officially hit code red.
Yeah,
Let's talk about OpenAI. They just released GPT 5.2.
they did. And the framing here is fascinating. They're calling it their most advanced model for work.
For work. That feels like a very specific pivot, not for humanity, not for creativity, for work.
It is. If you look at the reception, it's been mixed. The benchmarks are high, technically. It does the math, it passes the tests. But the vibes, as the internet says, are divided. It feels like a wartime release designed to stop users from defecting to Anthropic.
Feels defensive.
A little bit. But where it shines is artifacts, right? Spreadsheets, presentations.
Yeah, let's talk about that. They launched something called Prism.
Prism is a new workspace. It's specifically for scientists and researchers. It integrates GPT 5.2 directly into the workflow for things like latex editing and data visualization. It's less about chatting with a bot and more about having a co-pilot that can handle long-running agents and structured documents.
So instead of a chat window, it's more like a dashboard.
Exactly. OpenAI is trying to lock down the office worker. They want to be the default for the Fortune 500 employee who needs to make a slide deck.
But meanwhile, the developers, the people actually building the apps, they seem to be migrating.
That is the trend. We have to talk about Claude Opus 4.6 from Anthropic.
The coding king.
Currently, yes. It is just dominating the web dev leaderboards. If you are coding, if you are building infrastructure, Claude Opus 4.6 has become the go-to. It's putting immense pressure on OpenAI because the developers, they're the tastemakers.
Why is it winning? Is it just smarter?
It seems to have better reasoning for syntax and structure. It hallucinates less when writing code. If you ask it to build a website, it gives you working code on the first try more often than GPT. It feels like a senior engineer, whereas GPT 5.2 feels like a very eager intern.
That's a crucial distinction. But there is a wild card in the mix. Elon Musk's XAI. They're moving incredibly fast. Grok 4.2 and the upcoming Grok 5.
XAI is the player that people underestimated, and now they are scrambling to catch up. They've secured a massive win with the Pentagon.
The GenAI.mil platform.
Right, integration with IL5 security clearance.
Okay, explain IL5 for the non-defense contractors listening.
Impact Level 5. It is a security classification for controlled unclassified information. It means the system is robust enough to handle sensitive mission data. That's access for 3 million Department of Defense personnel.
That is a level of institutional trust that is just. It's hard to buy. You don't just walk into the Pentagon and get IL5 clearance.
No, you have to earn it through rigorous auditing. It legitimizes XAI as a serious infrastructure player, not just some social media bot.
But speaking of social media, they are doing things in finance that are raising eyebrows. Tell us about the Alpha Arena.
This was a stealth win. Grok 4.20 secretly entered a stock trading simulation called Alpha Arena. It didn't just compete, it won. It posted 12.11% returns.
Wait, 12% returns. Over what time frame?
A very short window. But the percentage isn't the story. The method is the story.
How to do it.
It has a unique edge, real-time access to the X fire hose, that's the old Twitter data stream. While other models are trained on static data from months ago, Grok is seeing breaking news, financial sentiment, global events as they happen.
So if a CEO tweets something or a disaster happens,
Grok knows about it instantly. In finance, that latency advantage is everything. It's the difference between reading yesterday's newspaper and standing on the floor of the NYSE. That information asymmetry is terrifyingly powerful.
that is terrifying and impressive. But speaking of terrifying and impressive, we need to look east. There's a surprise rising out of China.
Moonshot AI. They released Kimik 2.5.
And this isn't just another copycat model. I feel like we have this bias in the West where we assume Chinese models are just lagging behind Llama or GPT.
That assumption is dangerous and, quite frankly, it's outdated. Kimik 2.5 is a trillion-parameter mixture of experts model, but the headline feature isn't the size, it's the agent swarms.
Swarms. That sounds sci-fi.
It does, but it's the next logical step. Kimik 2.5 is capable of coordinating up to 100 specialized agents simultaneously. Instead of one AI trying to solve a problem step by step, it spins up a swarm.
How does that even work?
Well, imagine you need to build a complex software application. The model acts as a manager. It assigns one agent to write the code, one agent to design the interface, one agent to write the documentation, and maybe another agent to critique the work. They all work in parallel and talk to each other.
So it's not a chatbot, it's a digital agency in a box.
Precisely. And the results. It is outperforming GPT 5.2 on hard reasoning benchmarks, specifically the HLE, the Humanities Last Exam benchmark. It signals that the gap between U.S. closed models and international open source models isn't just closing. In some areas, it's gone.
So we have swarms in China, trading bots at XAI, coding wizards at Anthropic. It feels chaotic.
It is chaotic. It's a brawl.
But amidst all this noise, there's one company that seems quiet, almost too quiet, and that's Google.
And this is where we need to look past the headlines. While everyone is fighting over who has the best chatbot for writing emails, Google is positioning Gemini 3 Pro to be the infrastructure.
Let's look at the specs, because on paper it looks like a monster.
The key number here is the context window, 2 million tokens.
Okay, for those listening who don't speak AI nerd, what does 2 million tokens actually mean?
Think of the context window as the AI's short-term memory, its attention span. Most models can remember a long conversation or maybe a small book. 2 million tokens means it can read entire libraries, massive corporate code bases, or hours of video in a single go.
It doesn't have to search for the answer. It just holds the entire project in its head.
Exactly. It changes the use case. It's not about asking a question and getting an answer. It's about ingesting an entire company's data and understanding it holistically.
And it's not just text.
No, it's natively multimodal. It processes video, audio, and code better than the others because it was built that way from the ground up. But the real checkmate move isn't the tech itself, it's how they are vertically integrating this into high-value industries. Look at healthcare.
MedGemma 1.5.
Exactly. This isn't just a chatbot that passed a medical exam. MedGemma 1.5 F.O.R.G.E can analyze 3D CT and MRI scans. We are talking about volumetric analysis, not just looking at 2D slices like a radiologist looks at a screen.
So it can see the tumor in 3D space.
It can calculate the volume, the density, the growth rate, and this is the Google advantage. It can connect the dots between that 3D imaging and the patient's health records, their genetic history, their previous appointments.
It connects the siloed data.
Right. While OpenAI and Anthropic are fighting for the chatbot crown, Google is embedding Gemini into the fundamental workflows of healthcare and enterprise search.
It feels like the difference between building a better app and building the operating system.
That is the perfect analogy. In the dust-settling phase of technology, the winner is usually the one with the best infrastructure and the deepest context window. Gemini's ability to handle those massive data loads positions it to be the operating system for AI. The others might just end up being applications running on top of the world Google organizes.
That is a sobering thought for the competition. Everyone's fighting a land war, and Google is building the atmosphere.
Exactly.
But there is one more layer to this news brief. We've talked about money, laws, and models. But we need to talk about the human element, specifically education.
This is a story that isn't getting enough headlines in the West, and it really should be. Beijing has just mandated AI education in public schools from primary school all the way through high school.
Mandatory AI literacy.
Yes. And think about the contrast. In the U.S., the conversation is dominated by regulating safety, kill switches, and liability. How do we stop this? In China, the state is integrating AI literacy directly into the curriculum. How do we use this?
So they aren't just teaching kids how to use the tools, they're teaching them how the tools work.
They're teaching prompt engineering, model architecture, agent management, and that creates a future workforce gap. We aren't just competing on who has the most H100 GPUs or the biggest data centers. We're competing on the human ability to wield these tools.
It's the difference between being a user and being a master of the technology.
If one generation grows up viewing AI as a fundamental skill like reading or math, and another grows up viewing it as a regulated product to be wary of, that changes the economic balance in 10 or 20 years. That is the long game.
So to recap the state of the world on this Friday, February 6th, 2026. We have $2.5 trillion flowing into infrastructure. The cement is being poured. We have a legal war between the White House and the states that is keeping compliance officers awake at night. We have models that can trade stocks, form swarms, and hold 2 million tokens of context. And Google is quietly trying to become the medical and data OS of the planet.
It is a chaotic, fragmented, and incredibly fast-moving picture.
It really is. And if you are listening to this and feeling a little overwhelmed, or if you're thinking, okay, that's the news, but how do I actually survive this in my business? We have a solution.
You don't have to figure it out alone.
If you want to actually mitigate your risk and apply real AI solutions, not just the hype, but the actual tools that move the needle, you need to join us at the Forge. It's happening Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We go deeper than the news. We talk strategy and application.
It's where we take these high-level concepts like agent swarms and context windows and hammer them into practical tools you can use on Monday morning.
The link is in the comments. Join the Forge. It's the best hour you'll spend on your business this week.
Before we go, though, I want to leave the listener with one thought to chew on over the weekend.
What's that?
We talked about Moonshot's Kimik model coordinating swarms of 100 agents. We talked about Grok trading stocks with 12% returns.
Right.
If the models are now managing teams of agents and managing capital better than we can, we have to ask ourselves, are we the managers of this technology? Or are we just becoming the data entry clerks for the machines?
That is a provocative thought to end on.
Yeah.
Are we the boss or are we the assistant?
Thanks for listening to the Weekly AI Brief. We'll see you on the Forge.
Stay curious.
You've been godsmacked, but listening is the easy part. Now it's time to build. Join us in the Forge, where the episode becomes action and clarity gets weaponized. First initiation's on us. Access is limited. Courage is required.